Hey, what's going on? I'm so
Hi.
sorry about that. I need to be professional here, I guess, right?
But what's the definition of professional?
Good question.
A professional what? That's the deciding factor.
Ooh, that's a rabbit hole
Professional
right there.
co-host on the show get found and
Be seen. Oh, that question right there is a rabbit hole, I gotta say. Professional
absolutely.
what? Happy Monday, everyone. It's great to be together.
Welcome back.
Welcome back to another episode. And today, we're gonna talk about from being distracted to captivated, the dangers of losing your focus when speaking on camera. This is perfect because we are on camera, Monty.
Huh? What?
What?
Oh, sorry, I lost focus there for a second.
Got to bring it back in?
That's okay. We've got a tool for that.
That's right.
We've got a framework. We're good.
Got a framework. I like that. A framework, a system. And Monty, this topic is important, because it's so important to. There's so many things that can distract you when you're on camera, when you have to provide some value for people, when you have to lay out a message so that people can leave with it and make their lives more productive, or make their professional lives more productive. And we have that opportunity to share it today and give them some tips and some insights on how to be focused. I like that.
Yeah, because not only are there external factors, there's internal factors. Those are the ones that really trip me up.
The internal factors?
Yeah, you mentioned the one right as we start out the show about rabbit hole.
Rabbit hole.
Oh boy. Yep, I can get unfocused and travel down some rabbit burrows. Not just one hole, the whole thing.
Burrows. Rabbit neighborhoods. Rabbits and their families, and then
absolutely. Yep. So it's good to have the framework. It's good to have something to keep you on track.
Right. Yeah, this is good. This relates to being on camera. We're talking about that specifically, but it also relates to being public speaking or even having conversations, being in a room and communicating. And so it's important to be able to have focus and have tools that can help you to focus so that you can deliver the way you'd like to, not just need to, like to. And it is, Monty, I'd say it's a significant skill for us to have. Would you agree?
Yeah, communication is one of the foundational skills.
Right.
To deal with other people. I mean,
well,
and like you said, it's not just in groups. It can be one-on-one. It can be meetings for business. It can be social groups. But communication and sending your message. Now, sometimes communication is conversation, which might not be communicating an idea or a point necessarily.
Right.
But when you do get into that realm of, I need to deliver a message, I need to make a point, I need to get data from my brain into somebody else's brain, communication is key.
It's key, for sure. It can definitely help move the needle. So why is losing focus a mistake? That's a good question. If you're in your audience, you may have that question. Why is losing focus a mistake? Well, it could lead to a lack of clarity in your message. You might have a message to give and you want to be clear. You ever feel that way, Monty? I know for me as a communicator, when I have a message to give, and I've done that. I had a message to give and I didn't give it as much as I wanted to. And some people can say, hey, you're being hard on yourself, but you know what you want to deliver. You may have an intention. You may have a goal that you start out in or with. And then at the end of that time to communicate, you didn't reach your goal. That can be frustrating.
That's the rabbit hole syndrome for me. So here's the scenario. I want to convey a message. I want to convey some information. This is the thing I'm conveying. But then I go off on a rabbit hole and talk about these other topics that, well, they may relate
Right.
and they may even support,
Right.
but they're rabbit holes. They're off to the side. I've lost focus. So
Yeah.
now I'm talking about several different things. And
Right.
the emphasis on what was the main point is now diminished, if not lost.
Right. Yeah, that's never a good feeling, So yeah, having good frameworks or tools that can help you is so helpful in those times. But here's the thing, Monty. Sometimes I don't know about you, but you're going through your weekend, like even on a show like today, where it's Monday, you might have had a crazy busy Monday or weekend, and then you didn't have time to prepare, or you did have time to prepare, but there's some element where you just had other things going on, and then those are some triggers that can help you to lose focus as well. Has it ever happened to you?
Absolutely. That's that perfect planning, which is a whole nother show that we've done and we'll do again, I'm sure. But
Yeah.
the idea is that I put all my ducks in a row and something came over and knocked them out of line. And
Right.
so now, because they're out of line, I can't proceed, or now I'm hiccuping, or now I don't know which one is which anymore, or
Right.
yeah. So it's pretty important to be flexible.
Right. Oh,
Which
yeah.
is kind of interesting because you want to stay on focus. Focus means you got to stay here, but that's where we talk about frameworks, but I like to talk about a map. Because if you have a map, it's like, hey, I want to deliver this big idea. I could go about that in some different ways.
Right.
So if your framework is a map and you start to go off track, start to go down a rabbit hole, you have your framework to look back to. You can say, hey, well, now that I'm here, how can I get back to my main focus again?
Right. Right. I love that. And you're talking about specifically mind map or just map in general?
Well, it's just the concept of a map, but to implement it in this scenario, you're probably going to use a classic mind map.
Classic mind map. I've done that, and it's worked really well. I've been in business meetings using a mind map, and even using it in presentation mode, and it's worked amazingly.
Now, you have to say for people in the audience, when you say presentation mode, that suddenly that now there's a disjoint, because a lot of people understand, well, a mind map, that's the thing where it used to be you write it on a piece of paper and you draw lines between stuff, and it's a glorified flow chart, if you will. But now we're in the digital age, so now we can do those things with the lines and everything on the screen, which is great, because then you're not erasing and rewriting and stuff. So it's much more fluid.
Right.
The program that you use, that you introduced me to, that I now use, Mindomo, has the feature presentation. Other mind mapping software does not have that feature. So when you say that, people might be familiar with mind mapping, but then they're like, presentation mode, what the heck do you mean? So the Mindomo tool is cool, where you have a mind map and you can go into presentation mode and you get to program how it presents the different nodes of the mind map. But then you get to zoom in and present it in this visual, engaging format.
Right. And for those who may not know, my map is pretty much a map where you throw up all your ideas, or you put out, I don't want to say throw up, but put out your ideas, and then you organize them. And so, yes, that's true, Monty. So having a mind map, a program like Mindomo, not an affiliate for it, but I love the program. It's amazing when you put it in that mode, because it's like telling a story, and it goes from one thing to the next, and it's so much more easier to memorize. Yeah.
Well, that's we'll have to go into that, because then we can talk about, it can be in an outline, it can be in a timeline, it can be in I can't even think of all the different names. There's formats and different ways that a mind map can be
Gantt
used.
chart. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So the point here, though, is that
Yeah.
for this one specific thing of having a framework to stay on track for the big message that you're giving, so you don't lose focus, which we were about ready to do there. We were starting to go down there, the mind mapping. So let's bring that back. So you got the map. Now we know, hey, we were starting to go off track. It's supporting. It's cool. It was informative. But let's bring that back. It's about losing focus.
Losing focus. So you can have a framework. So what about some reasons, some common reasons for losing focus?
Well, the external factors that we were talking about, you know, there's things that are beyond your control is the worst one. So you have news that suddenly came in, family members sick, something's going on, distracting you from what you're doing. The equipment isn't working right.
Right.
Here would be one on a live set. You stumble as you walk out onto the stage. Now, for some people, no big deal.
Yeah.
For other people, that might be the distraction where it's like, now I'm slightly nervous. Oh, and you lose confidence. Then the words just fall out of your head.
Right. Or you have a tablet with you and you didn't download the document and you can't pull it up.
Well, if you're going to talk about electronic equipment, then your tablet starts to update.
Oh.
No, I didn't want you to update. No. Oh, too bad.
Fun. So those are external factors that can happen. Anything can happen. You know, you might get a phone call, an emergency. You know, if you're live, you know, the screen may not work. Your presentation might not have gotten to the person who's to AV team. Anything can happen. And you alluded to it before, being flexible is important and is key.
That's why I like the map idea versus a blueprint. So if you come on, I don't want to say come on. If you start your presentation with a blueprint, that means that if anything goes wrong, you can't finish the blueprint. You don't. That's it. You have to have all the key factors. You have to put them together in the right order if you want to get the outcome with a blueprint.
Right.
With a map, if you figure out that the road's washed out, well, you can look and figure out, well, how else can I get to the end? I might need to go off over here and get there, but now I have ways to be flexible. Now I have ways to chart out, to map out. How do I want to get to my goal?
Right. Agreed. 100%. And that's what you call being flexible and creative. We said flexible before, but being creative. I love that.
Yes, yeah, it's kind of taking that for granted. You know, it goes hand in hand, but that's a great self-awareness point there. It's like, hey, not only flexible, but creative. Because you got to figure it out. There's got to be some critical thinking in there.
Right.
And creative and critical thinking. Wait a minute. Are you talking about critical thinking?
Dude, that's hot right there.
Yeah. A lot of people mistake and think that it's either one or the other. And in fact, they're more powerful combined.
Absolutely.
But that we're getting, once again, our topics are so diverse.
But very important.
Let's bring that around. What kind of things, what do people do that you know, traditionally people do things to try and avoid losing focus, but some of these traditional things might not have the effect that they really wanted?
Well, this is a tricky one. Memorization is important. But here's a trick. If you rely only on that and that's all of your focus, that can work to your detriment. Because you got to memorizing is helpful. And some people say, don't memorize. Don't see. We talked about earlier, balance. Some people go to the extreme and say, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. Truth of the matter is, that's a good thing to do. But if you only focus on that and that's your crutch, that can work against you.
I can see where in a circumstance where you memorize something, but then you need to, go off course. You need to change the topic. Maybe something happened in the audience. You figure out, oh, wait, this portion of my talk is not relevant to these people. I need to switch this up. And if you were relying on a memorized scenario, you don't have the flexibility.
Right. Absolutely. So that can happen. Another one is over rehearsing,
which is similar, but different.
Yes. Now, that's a good explanation, actually. I agree with that 100%. With rehearsing people, sometimes I'm rehearsing people, even in the entertainment world. It is very key. It's very important. But if they end up, like we talked about some weeks ago, overthinking, that's when it could work to their detriment as well.
Right.
So what I like to say is, hey, rehearse, get ready for it, have fun, know it backwards and forwards, go play with it, have fun with it, and then let it go. And that's kind of an extreme thing to say, let it go, but it does help people out, because they're not relying. So they gotta, at that point, they gotta be able to trust themselves, like we talked about as well. They got to be able to trust themselves in the abilities that they have, that they will be able to show up because they put the work in.
Well, I would say that over rehearsing is going to be similar to over working out. That's an interesting term to say that. But when you are working out, you don't just, work. You don't work out 7 days a week.
Right.
You have rests in between, or at least you switch up what you're working out. So that way you work out your upper body, but you got to give it time to I don't know the right terminology. I'm not a fitness guru, but
yeah,
I do know that by resting and coming back to it, that is more impactful. And I think that your brain is similar.
Absolutely.
It's like studying for a test. You can get brain fog, you can get brain numb, you can overwork it, you can use up all your calories.
Yeah, and I've heard experts say too, like, when you're studying for something or trying to remember something, go at it, even use something like the Pomodoro technique, and then take a break and then come back to it. That gives your brain some time to work on it and just work subconsciously. So it's a balance to strike, but you're totally right. Give it a chance to recover from the work that you put out with it.
So there's the memorizing, which is how it's similar, is that, you got to rehearse to memorize, really, but you don't have to memorize when you're rehearsing. So that's why it's different.
Yeah.
But then on the flip side, there's I'm not going to rehearse. I'm not going to memorize. I just have everything right here on my notes.
Done that. Been there, done that.
Well, I think that it's a well-known, well-taught, widespread tactic. And so therefore humans are different. So there's different ways to utilize the tactic.
Right.
In this circumstance, we're talking about heavy reliance on the notes and how that is how people are trying to cope with staying on focus. They have all their notes right in front of them. So the obvious one to me is, well, when I do that, then it looks like I'm reading everything.
Yeah.
And therefore, I don't feel as confident, because it doesn't seem like I know what I'm talking about, because I'm just reading stuff.
Right. Absolutely. That's true. And of course, with that, just like the other ones, there's a balance with that, because there is a technique that you can do when you're reading your notes. But a lot of people will say, get the notes. Don't. They might go to the extreme, and so that's where you need to have the balance with that as well. It's funny. There's a common theme right there, Monty. We need balance with all of it.
Balance and a map.
And a map.
I'll tell you, because you have that map, and that's, you know, it's your notes.
Right.
It's not actually like a road map with topography and colors, and it's a map of your topics.
Right. And if you do what you do, Monty, when you have the mind map, you have the different shapes and the different colors, that affects your emotion with it as well when it comes to memorization. I love that.
That and the visuals. So I said that map doesn't have to have all the colors and everything in it, but it can.
It can.
It can have them. It just doesn't have to. There's a balance, whatever works for somebody.
Mm-hmm.
What I like about having a color-coded, shape-coded map is that then if I go off track, it's super easy to find where I want to be.
Right.
And I say that, I'm going to say that again, let that sink in. So I can find out where I want to be. I think a lot of people make the mistake and think, well, what's the next step? And there is the danger of the reliance, heavy reliance. It's got to be like this. Well, not necessarily, because maybe you thought you were going to do one way. In fact, you maybe even rehearsed it that way. But in the moment, something just triggered. You're like, hey, I'm going to skip up here and touch base on this thing because it supports what I'm talking about right here. And if you realize something like that and you have that flexibility, that's so impactful because it's real in the moment. It's not rehearsed. It's not memorized. It's this human emotion. Oh, I just thought of this. Look how this relates. No, now let me get back on track because I've got it all right here. I touched base on that, supported what I'm doing here. Yeah, so I get to go wherever I want.
Right.
I'm in the glass elevator.
Yeah. And you know what's special about that, Monty? What's special about that is that those are times, some people might call them improv times. I don't know. But those are times that you may never get back. Those special moments that you're able to get those nuggets.
And that's what I was actually trying to point out. Thank you for saying that. That's the danger of memorizing, over rehearsing, and being super reliant on notes, is that you can miss out on that. And that is where you will connect with your audience.
Right.
Like no other. All the other stuff may be good, and people might say, yeah, I'm resonating with that. But when you get to that point where you are animated and you come up with this, maybe especially if it's something you hadn't thought of in that way or something, it's like this realization, it's this aha moment. Let me share it with you.
Right.
Super powerful.
Oh, powerful. Oh man, that's what you just said right there. That's a whole separate episode in it of itself. Because those are moments where true transformation comes for you and also for your audience.
And it's an interesting relationship with staying on focus.
Yeah.
Because you have the map, you have your main topic, and now we're playing around inside here, but we're staying focused, even though it's unrehearsed, even though it's maybe not what you had in mind, but you can see it's on my map. It's just I took this detour. I went over here first, and now
You've explored within the map.
Right. Explored. That's good.
I love that, man. Oh, it's powerful, man. It's powerful. Yeah, that's a whole separate episode in it of itself.
I think we've come across at least 3.
Yeah. And then the other one, avoiding mistakes. You know, you're trying so hard. Don't do this. Don't step over here. Don't look at the red plane. As we've heard before, right? And guess what happens?
Well, whatever you focus on is typically what you manifest.
Yes, indeed.
So yeah, that is definitely I've heard that too as a tactic. It's a list all the things that could make you go wrong. Or that could go wrong, that could make you become unfocused in this circumstance. It was more broad and general about other stuff. But for this, put everything, list out all those things that could potentially go wrong and wad it up and throw it away. Those are the things you are not going to think about.
Yeah.
I thought, well, that's kind of interesting. Let's think about the things we're not going to think about. I know. It's an interesting tactic, though. The concept of wadding it up and throwing it away.
Yeah. I like that. And it's with my entertainment background, where my mind goes, think about all the things that could go wrong, put them in your back pocket, and how can you make it work? I'd say in the artist world, how can you make it cool? If I fell down, how can I make that into a dance move? If I trip, maybe I'd get back up and do the walk again. That might make the audience laugh with me. So interesting. I like that. I've heard that before too, but I think I've had resistance when I've heard that, but I didn't get that unlock I just got to put it in my back pocket. So it's easy to hear it from you. It's easy to receive and to think, oh wow, I got me another tool. Thank you. Because it's what I've naturally done, but I didn't give it conscious thought.
That story of that concept, I've heard applied many different ways, putting things into a box and shipping it away. But the concept is, hey, let me take all the bad things, acknowledge them, and release them. So then we're talking about focus. Let me focus on, I've released the bad stuff. Let me just focus on the good stuff. Let me focus on my main point.
Yeah. Love it. Man, that's my takeaway from this episode, Monty.
Well, good. I am going to try and implement that more. It's great to talk about these concepts. It's much more difficult to actually implement them in the moment. Right.
And so that's why strategizing is important. But it's the whole process when you're rehearsing and not over rehearsing. And, you could think about, okay, here's some things that could happen. So this is how I can move. And when you practicing in different ways and exploring with your rehearsals, like I've always given you that example with the actor I witnessed when he was going over his lines, exploration. So,
well, no, there's another take on rehearsing. It's like I need to know my lines, but I'm not going to memorize. I'm not going to over rehearse exactly how to say them. So it's just an interesting way of analyzing that story that you had, and let's fill that in really quick in case people haven't heard the story from before.
Yeah,
the actor was saying the same line over and over and over, and different ways every time. He'd say it differently, and there was I'm looking at that and what we just talked about. He's memorizing, he's rehearsing, but he's not overdoing it. In fact, he's exploring.
Boom. Woo wee. Ooh, that's a module. Oh, put that in my back pocket. That's a good one, Monty. Did we cover everything?
I mean, without going deep into it as a full-on class, I think we've covered the gist of everything. What the mistake is, things that can cause it, things that people try to do that aren't necessarily working, and some suggestions on how to stay focused.
Love it.
I think, that's pretty good.
Love it. So, in a sense, that was keeping it simple.
Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty much. Saw
Pretty
what you
much.
did right there. Saw what you did right there.
Well, we can be official. Keep it simple.
Keep it simple.
Do what works for you.
Right.
That's the big key, because all these different
Right.
things don't work for everybody in the same ways. Balance it out to find that recipe that works for you, and practice.
Practice.
Practice, practice, practice.
Right. And I tack on to that. As you practice, make sure you explore. We're creative individuals. We have our analytic side, we have our creative side. I know society teaches us a lot that we're at one or the other, but you are both. If you have a whole brain, you are both. You are both. It just might not be explored. So explore, have fun. Don't worry about making the mistakes. Go for it. Boom.
I love that. That's going to carry through for a while. Half a brain. Half a brain. I like it. We'll see where that goes.
Good stuff, Monty.
That was good.
Good stuff. So, Monty, we got to leave them somewhere. If someone's trying to figure out how to have their ideal client, how to gain their ideal client.
Well, let's tie that together. If you are needing to stay focused. And the focus is difficult if you don't know who you're talking to, why you're talking to them, what that is that they want, not what you think they need. Those things are all mapped out on the client map, the ideal client avatar map. I can say it. I can put all kinds of words in there. The ideal client map. Yes, indeed. And that is what I keep referring back to. Even when I say my keeping things on track goes back to the map. I use sections of the map for different sections of my life.
Yeah. Love that.
So if you want to find out about the map, you want to see the map, you want to learn the map, check out MontyArmstrong.com.
That's right. Check it out.
In fact, you and I have been discussing how we can use the map to help people gain confidence in themselves.
That's right.
Use the map to identify your ideal client. I've used the map to decide important business decisions.
Right. You can use it also to know where you'd like to go next. I love you said that earlier. You didn't say where you needed to go. You said where you wanted to go, which is a big deal.
Absolutely. I also, that want is a big deal. I mentioned so that you can identify what your ideal client avatar wants, not what you think they need. That's a whole other episode. Wants and needs.
Wants and needs.
Benefit, meaning.
Woo! Good stuff.
On that, I'll be talking about that more.
Right on. So there you have it. I think that's about it, Monty.
I think we covered it here.
Yes,
the dangers of losing focus when speaking on camera or live. Right. Or live on camera.
Right. Or live at an event, even if there's a camera person there filming you.
Right.
So good stuff, everyone. Hey, have a great week, and we'll see you soon.
Take care.